If you all remember back in 2017, there was this 21-day challenge that our Sims could basically do to turn temporarily into a plant sim for 5 days. All we had to do was talk to Jasmine Holiday, who looked like this, but then also now looks like this in the Sims 4 was 2025 version, that all we had to do was ask her about the plant sim challenge, find these 6 magic beans, put them in a tree stump, grow the tree stump into an actual tree, eat the forbidden fruit, and then become a plant sim for 5 days. But my thinking back then, there wasn't really a lot of things you could do with plant sims anyway. Sure, they were cool, they had green skin and like some type of like special ability, but it wasn't really that much. And the fact that you can only be a plant sim for 5 days didn't really see the value in it. We had plant sims all the way back in The Sims 2 that I thought was so much fun. We had them in The Sims 3, I believe, with University Life. Even though I didn't play with them back then, I thought they were really cool looking. But now that we're getting the Enchanted by Nature expansion pack for The Sims 4, fairies and like nature type things, I'm pretty sure that we're probably going to be getting some type of plant sim update with the new expansion pack with new interactions, and they actually have some type of like ability to do certain things to your Sims or to your fairies. But I'm crossing my fingers that they actually are going to be a really full functioning thing. If we can turn to a plant sim ourselves or not, but I would like for them to come back in some type of way. So I thought, why not build a house for a plant sim in The Sims 4 so that way I can yap about plants, nature, and then overall things I'm looking forward to in the new expansion pack. So now that we're in the speed build portion, let me just tell you right here, right now, that I am a plant parent. I'm also a dog parent, but I was first a plant parent. I had golden pothos plants all around my office and in my apartment at one point. I now have 7 golden pothos plants in different containers around the house from one singular plant. It's the most low maintenance, most easy, and like cool looking plant I've ever seen in my entire life that I was so excited when they announced Enchanted by Nature, mainly for the plants alone. They've already showcased the Creators in Spotlight and the Build and Buy Spotlight. The Build and Buy looks really good to me, but the cast doesn't look as exciting to me as of right now. But I will say, Build and Buy, I'm always so excited. I'm looking forward to the windows, all the plants, and even like the live house plants that we're going to be able to get in this new EP is going to be so helpful. And also all the, I think, nature pressing book thing will also be very fun. But when I built this on stream like about a couple weeks ago, I just had the idea after building my fairy theme house, I wanted to do something for plant sims because plant sims are an interesting life state. We had them dated back to like The Sims 2. I don't really remember them from The Sims 1 if we had them. I was 4. I don't know. But I do remember them from The Sims 2 specifically because I thought it was so unique and odd at the same time that one, the plant sims only had very few like needs that you had to take care of, which I mean, it makes sense. They're plants and they're sims. They don't need much to live. But I thought it was very odd on how they had children because normally in The Sims you have like woohoo and try for a baby in a bed, in a hot tub, in a dumpster, whatever you want to do. But I thought it was so odd because you could literally plant babies. You click on the ground and then you give birth to a baby. It just pops out of nowhere. It's giving Sims 1 coded, where you kiss a lot in The Sims 1. You get a pop up saying, do you want to have a baby? Yes or no? And then a bassinet appears out of thin air. It's kind of like that to me in the Sims 2 era. I don't really remember them a lot from The Sims 3 to University Life just because I didn't really play a lot of The Sims 3 back then. Because one, it could not run on my PC. Open world was exciting, but that was laggy as ever. I did understand that they did have them, and I don't really know if they had any like special abilities or anything at all. But to my understanding, I kind of want to go back and play as a plant sim in The Sims 2 and The Sims 3 way before we get the new EP, which is on July 10th. And I have to say, I'm looking forward to the new EP for many different reasons. There have been a lot of chitter chatter around the interwebs, and I have seen it, and I firmly agree. It does feel a little bit like Outdoor Retreat 2.0. The world feels a little bit like Windenburg and Hemford and Bagley all wrapped into one. Where's like the expansiveness of it all? I need a little bit more information and insight of like what we're actually getting out of this expansion pack, because normally we only get expansion packs for like different worlds and different things, but never an occult. I don't really count mermaids and I don't really count aliens because they don't have a skill tree and they're not as interesting to me. I always thought we would get an occult with a game pack because the last game pack with an occult that we got was werewolves, and that was actually technically the last game pack we ever got in The Sims 4 after a couple of years. So it was very odd that we have an occult and an EP, and hopefully they have a skill tree, because I think what makes a cult so unique and so much fun in The Sims 4 at least is that they have a skill tree and there's some added benefit for them to do things other than like being the occult, like hissing, howling, or whatever, really. That I'm really hopeful that there will be a lot of cross-pack gameplay with Discover University, Outdoor Retreat, maybe hopefully with Plantsims and Fairies combined, and then even including stuff from like cats and dogs. How will fairies interact with burglars? Like, there's a lot of intricate things that I'm really curious about because I'm all about that, gameplay life. I love gameplay. I do build quite a lot here on YouTube because I've been very preoccupied in my gameplay mindset. I set up things that take me a long time to do that I don't really post a lot of gameplay videos here every once in a while. But when I do, it is like what I'm fully intended to play for the long haul. And I would say honestly that I do hope that Plant Sims will be fun. And I do hope that Plant Sims will have some added benefit where they can interact with your Sims. Maybe we can become a Plant Sim with the forbidden fruit that we can eat, but be a Plant Sim for a little bit longer. And then maybe even having like some special abilities that can either help us or hurt us at the same time. But I don't know. What do you all think about Plant Sims? Like, have you played as Plant Sims in The Sims 3 or The Sims 2? And if you want to see Plant Sims in The Sims 4 as like a permanent thing, what do you want out of them? And do you even think we're going to get like a permanent like life state type of thing with Enchanted by Nature? Cross some fingers that we do, because I think the more things that we get in terms of like gameplay, the more fun it will be in certain circumstances, depending on how you play. Like for me, I'm a family game player. And the way that I see this expansion pack is like I won't really play it that much in terms of being a fairy, because I feel like the main selling point is the fairies for this whole entire pack. But there's a lot more things that go along with it. I mean, Inniscreen, the actual world, the 3 neighborhoods that we're going to get with it, and then just the overall like ability to have some influence in some type of way with nature. And I think for me, the way I see it is like my sim, Aspen Marie O'Connor. She's my ride or die, as we all know. I talk about her all a lot in most videos, or almost all videos actually. But I was saying in my most recent current household update video, if you haven't seen it, check it out. But she just recently got to level 10 of her doctor career, and she's about to have her 4th and last child. I am guaranteeing that's going to happen, that when she has her last baby, she's going to eventually consider retiring from her doctor career and then maybe open up a small business of some type of way. Because the way I see it is that I want to try my hand at the apothecary skill and maybe some of the aspirations that we'll get out of it as well. And maybe even traveling to Innisgreen every once in a blue moon. And I treat it as like a world where you would have to like fly there to get there, because it wouldn't make any sense if your Sims live in Newcrest and want to travel to Inniscreen. Like, that is like, it ain't the same. So the way I would see is that they would go on vacation every once in a while. I would hope that the lot sizes are at least big enough or small enough for me to build a nice small rental property, or at least a medium-sized rental property. To my knowledge, I think the last packs that we've been getting at least 13, 12 lots, maybe at most, maybe a little less. But speaking of like 3 neighborhoods or sub neighborhoods in Innisgreen, I would think that we'll probably have at least 12 lots, if not then 11, maybe. And I'm really hopeful that we will get some really interesting build and buy like updates, because if you kind of saw a little bit in the trailer, the gameplay, or actually, I don't know when I'm posting this video. I don't really remember. At least the gameplay trailer comes out on the 26th of June. So basically next week on Thursday is when the gameplay trailer comes out. I'm recording this on a Saturday, which is June 21st. But In the gameplay trailer, there'll probably be some cool things that will kind of explain a little bit more in detail about the world, the fairies, and just the overall gameplay side of it all, hopefully. And my predictions, that video might be like 6 to 7 minutes long at most, because the last gameplay trailer that we had, it was quite lengthy. Businesses and Hobbies was there, and then I believe the last pack after that, these gameplay trailers are getting lengthy because I end up doing like a trailer reaction for most of them, or actually all of them, and it takes me forever to record them because I go into specific detail about what I see is like new, what I'm hopeful for, what my like thoughts and opinions about certain things. So I can guarantee you the video that I'll post for the gameplay trailer might be over like an hour long. Frosting fingers, that won't happen, but it probably will. So get your popcorn, get your things ready, because that will eventually come to the light of day on YouTube. But going back to the reveal trailer and then the blog post, there was like some build and buy things that I thought were so unique about putting plants on the roof, because I've done this before many, many times on so many levels that it has taken me a long time to kind of perfect it in a way that using tool mod by Twisted Mexi, you can kind of achieve that ability in a certain way. Like you can rotate plants in a certain degree and kind of get that the plants on the roof. But way back in like the 2000, like 2014 era of The Sims 4, 2015, in that way, when we started getting build cheats and like actual cheat codes for The Sims 4, there were ways to raise and lower things off of the ground. And of course, it made it more unique as time went on. But I will say though, never be afraid to use plants. Never be afraid to use debug, because debug and plants will make your builds feel a lot more alive, and I would think also somewhat lived in at the same time. A lot of my builds look like they're so customized in a way. I don't use any build and buy custom content ever in my game. I have it in my game, but I never put it in any of my builds that I post to the gallery, because it's one, not fair to the people who play on console, two, people who don't want to use CC or mods, and three, I just don't have time to link all of those things, so I just don't. But if I end up using it in my builds for like my live streams and people are curious, like, what is this object? I'll tell people. But I never really post my CC builds on the gallery, which I don't really have any. Once I post it, I delete things that I don't want in the build and replace it with CC if need be, but very rarely I'll ever use it. But shout out to the CC creators out there who make build and buy CC. You are talented, gifted, and don't let anyone else tell you that you are bad at making CC, because you're not. You're talented. Keep at it, keep going, never stop. But what was I saying? Oh yeah, so basically way back in like the trailer, there was like plants on the roof at like an angle, and I think it was like a hobbit style home, and I forget who built it. It's in the blog post, and I want to say Sandra Pica probably built one of the lots that had like plants on the roof. Either way, I'm thinking that might be a base game update build feature, because usually every time that we get a new expansion pack, there's always some type of like major gamifying game update for base game. I mean, I remember when we had the pawn tool with, I believe when we added in cottage living, and then horse ranch, we had the ability to like start painting our ceilings after how many years? I mean, toddlers or infants were an update for a base game thing with growing together. I mean, toddlers were a full-on base game update out of nowhere. Move objects, the pool tool. I mean, now we can play as a ghost because of life and death. I mean, there's so many really cool base game things that we have been getting in the past almost 11 years of The Sims 4. Let that sink in. 11 years of The Sims 4, starting in September of 2025. Will be 11 years. Almost 100 DLCs. Just saying. But going back to all of that, there were so many interesting things that I found base game offered to a lot of game players around the world, especially on console, because console didn't come out until like maybe a couple of years after the PC and Mac version, because console was, it's sometimes buggy. It has a little bit of issues, and you got to perfect and fix a lot of things because different controls, different platforms, different modifications and things like that. But I'm really hopeful that we'll probably get like at least maybe a like one or two big base game update regarding the new EP. My thought, of course, the roof thing for putting your plants on the roof, and then maybe also like I don't know, maybe like some plant sim stuff, but I doubt it, but who really knows? But I'm really excited though. I am more excited about all the plants that we'll get because I really love plants more than anything. I find they bring them to life. And fairies are really cool. I don't think I'll play with them that much or at all, really, because I'm not really an occult player. But whenever I do play with occults, I play them in a certain way. Like, for example, Batu's not an occult pack, like, at all, but I treat Batu as a Disney park, as like a theme park, because your Sims can travel there, stay there literally forever. It doesn't cost your Sims money. You get different types of currency when you go there. You can try to be a part of the resistance or the first order or just be plain old someone. Try out the aspirations, get a lightsaber. In a way, it feels like Disney because I've been to Batu. It's based in Florida, and I've been to Florida only 3 times in my life. And I went to Batu for the very first time when I went to Simsy's wedding. Fantastic. And it's an exact replica of what you see in The Sims and in real life. So that's how I treat Batu, as a Disney park, as a theme park for my Sims to go to every once in a while. But for fairies, for example, what I'm thinking is that we'll probably have a way where we all could probably treat fairies as a random dress up day holiday type of thing. Because I would assume that we'll have like some type of way we can dress up our Sims, not really specifically like with fairy wings, but maybe like some accessories and maybe it's like some makeup here and there and like some random outfits that we can probably wear for our Sims during the holidays. Maybe more for Harvest Fest or Halloween or dress up day. Because like Sims 4 Seasons, I think there's going to be a lot of interesting things that will tie to Inniscreen, because Inniscreen is like, it's not an Americanized world. We have a lot of worlds like that already in The Sims 4, but I think it's going to be one of those worlds that where it's going to rain a little bit more because it's inspired by like Ireland and places in that area. And I would think that there will be a lot more rain there, but there'll be seasons, I would think, like maybe like some snow, maybe it's like some more like falling of the trees, but I think in an Ireland type of way there will be like more rain. I've never been to Ireland, but I've studied a lot of Ireland things. Why am I saying Ireland? Ireland? Ireland. I don't know how to say it properly. Either way, I like doing research. I like understanding things and reading and watching videos. Like I love a good history channel, like documentary. Like I love documentaries. The History Channel, like the Discovery Channel, like I love those things. So whenever like something pops up, I'll go sit down and watch it whenever I feel like it. And I would hope like there will be some type of seasons in some type of way that will have a major effect on fairies, but then also major effects on like plant sims and just overall sims in general. And it does feel like a rags to riches rebirth in a way. When you see the reveal trailer, there is a way where your sims could forge in the ground, but also sleep on the ground. And with Rags to Riches, if you haven't ever heard of that challenge or tried it, the whole concept is that you can't have a corporate 9 to 5 job. You make money through non-traditional things like painting, gardening, forging in the ground. If you have a pet, you can have them search things for you and like sell that. There's a lot of non-traditional things you can do. You can go to the computer, the library, write books. You have Get Famous, you can make videos for a living that makes residual income. So do books too, but videos get a little bit more money for your bang for your buck, and you can win an award out of it too, which you can also sell. So I'm thinking that there's going to be a lot of really good resurgence in certain like legacy challenges and challenges in general, like Rags to Riches, Disney Princess Legacy Challenge, the Disney Fairy Challenge, the Shrek Legacy Challenge, Career Legacy, Berry Veggie, Not So Berry. I mean, the good old fashioned, I think the Royal Legacy Challenge. When you think of challenges, they don't always have to be challenging. And I think at the end of the day, with a lot of challenges people tend to make is that just have fun at the end of the day and do what you love. Change the rules around how you want. so it makes it fun for you and not stressing you out 24/7. Like for me, whenever I do a challenge, I change the rules when I play because I don't want to be forced into doing something, but I also want to try and like see what I can do without stressing myself out, if that makes sense. But I don't know. I just have a lot of ideas. I'm just yapping for yapping. And I think personally, going forward, the way I'm going to do my builds is really go full out because I've always been like so kind of scared to build certain things. Not because like it's crazy and wild, but more so like I just don't know how to like build without building, if that I don't know if that makes any sense, but I'm planning on doing like a real-time build with no commentary, and I'm just like plain it's the plain old game audio with some lo-fi music in the background playing for who knows how long. Because this build took me at least, I would say like 5 hours to build in real time because I built both of these on Twitch on stream. And I mostly build a lot on stream. So if you don't follow me on Twitch, you should. I'm there all the time, every single day, Monday through Saturday, playing The Sims and other variety of games. Stardew Valley, for example. At the time I'm recording this, literally every single Saturday, at 7 p.m. Central, we always play Stardew Valley after our coding sessions with Code Academy. And I'm just like, I am back in my farming era. I just achieved 48% perfection in my last playthrough. I was at 38 and now I'm at 48, so I'm getting very close to 50. So whenever I post this video, which most likely will be on Monday, most likely, I am hopefully going to be at 50% perfection and maybe even further. But my character is married to Sebastian. We have a full-blown house. We don't have any kids yet, but we are working our way up to getting a little bit more closer to perfection and money making because I realize I'm going to need 10 million G's, even more than that, just so I can afford the golden clock at the end and then eventually get other things in between. I have to start cooking more in Stardew Valley. Like I know a lot of recipes, but I just don't have all the ingredients to make them. So I've been a little bit slow in that regard, but that's okay. I feel like most of my speed builds, actually all my speed builds at this point, have always been like a podcast kind of style. And I treat them as a podcast of talking about literally anything and everything about my life or just what's happening in my game most of the time for at least 20 to 30 minutes at most. And I have a podcast, I just haven't posted an episode in like 4 years. And personally, I'm gonna bring it back very, very soon. Sooner than you think. So keep your eyes peeled on the socials and all that jazz. But let's go ahead and go into the game so I can show you all the build in real time. So that way you can kind of get an idea of what we were working with, especially for Plantsims in The Sims 4. So now that we're officially in the game, this is what my build looks like. And I have to say, I probably could have put this on a bigger lot, but knowing me, I would spend all of my days and hours on the exterior rather than the interior. But I personally don't see that as a bad thing. As a person who loves plants more than anything, the plants gotta thrive and not unalive. But we are in the town of Hemford-on-Bagley. It's the world that we got with cottage living, and it's honestly one of my favorite packs to utilize in terms of like plants, all the animals, and just overall good vibes of what it brings. The contests that we have in cottage living are rigged. I'm not salty. I'm just stating the true concrete facts. But we are on a 30 by 20 lot. It is actually one of the vacation lots that we have in Hemford-on-Bagley, but I changed it to a residential lot instead. It does have homey, great soil, and gnomes, and it also has the simple living lot challenge. Mainly because one, we're going to have new gnomes in the new expansion pack that will be a lot more interactable, that will either help you or hurt your Sims, depending on how you see it. But then I've also wanted to add in simple living because I never really used that lot challenge before. And as a person who loves rags to riches and like making my Sims suffer, I probably should use it more. Now, I wanted to make sure that the general exterior of the build had everything that your Sims needed and more some. So I added in a lot of plants, a lot of signage. I used a lot of stuff from the Greenhouse Haven kit, Eco Lifestyle, Cottage Living, of course, and just a variety of packs that really made sense to utilize it. And I used this new like roof glass texture from Life and Death. And I wasn't actually going to use it, but I felt like it made sense for an actual greenhouse. And rustic just makes sense. But then when I built this all on stream, someone had mentioned like this pergola thing that we have, I believe, from the Rivera Retreat kit. And I have not personally used this at all in a while since that kit, but it just made sense to add it over here along with all the gnomes from various of packs and mushrooms just aligned right behind them. I think this little corner looks so cute. I think the gnomes are very deadly, but yet lovable all at the same time. And I think we might be getting like at least 2 or 3 gnomes in the new EP. So adding them to my collection will be a perfect idea. But as for the inside, I wanted to make sure that this entrance area was nice and open, a lot of sunlight, a lot of room to grow, because I feel like plant sims, they need sunlight to thrive and not die, if you know. But I also wanted to make sure that I added in a really good color scheme that wasn't overly like too bright or too muted, but something nice and simple and yet earthy, if that makes sense. So my color scheme that I did throughout the entire build was like very green and brown and a little hints of blue in the living room and kitchen. But I wanted to have like that vibe of sense of newness, sense of life, sense of anything that was gonna grow. But I also wanted to add in a lot of space so that way when eventually the new pack comes out, you'll be able to add in all of your like live house plants to your build. So that way it feels even more alive, more than normal. But I really like how I did this little area. It's small, but it works very well. So over here, we have a little desk area to do all of your homework, your regular work, or whatever you want to do. Write some books if you want to. We have an art easel from the art studio kit. We have the fuse box from the restoration workshop kit. We have a little mini cloud plant from, I believe, from the paranormal stuff pack. The art frames from Life and Death, the calendar from Cats and Dogs, a base game clock. I don't know where that trunk came from. I'm pretty sure the basement treasure kits. But then over here, we have a little chair from Cats and Dogs, some shoes from Dream Home Decorator, a base game mirror, the Tiny Living mail holder carrier thingy, base game fire alarm, the base game burglar alarm. Because honestly, Robin Banks is doing way too much for my liking and needs to be put in jail for real. Like, hello, it's 2 a.m., Robin. You need to go somewhere else, not my house. I don't got nothing. I'm broke. So what you get here is no value. But gotta always have a security alarm so that way you're always safe and secure. But I also wanted to add in a lot of plants on here and then also over here. But as we make our way to the other room in the living room, which I had a little bit of trouble like working with because I didn't really know what vibe I was gonna go for. I did this all on stream, so I was kind of placing things down as I was going, and chat gave me a lot of suggestions on what I could do, which is very helpful. If you don't watch my streams or you're not there in my streams, I always take chat suggestions in all of my builds so that way I'm not like thinking, because I only have 2 brain cells and I cannot think of much. And I also felt like the plant sim or just whoever lives here basically loves a lot of variety of like art prints on the wall. So I added in like an art frame over here, another one over here. I also added in this thing right here, which is a family portrait. And I believe it came with Life and Death. And I'm so happy that it did, because whenever you have like a sim household living here, whatever like how many sims are living or dead in your household, basically, if they're like active living sims in your household, they'll have a family portrait right here. And as they age, the family portrait changes. And I think that's so cool. You also have the option to like pause it so that it doesn't change over time, and you just can keep adding more and more and more. But then for the kitchen area, I had a little bit of like a tiff with it, because I was like thinking, will this be the living room area? Will this be the kitchen area? I don't really know, but I settled for the kitchen and it felt like it just made a lot of sense to do it that way. So it's kind of cramped and crowded, but you kind of get the gist. You have 2 counter spaces to cook on if your sims love cooking together or just like by them lonesome. But then you have a nice little stove from the country kitchen kit. We have a nice little fridge, I believe also from the country kitchen kit, which, by the way, I think that was our very first kit that we ever got in The Sims 4, at least to my knowledge, and it was because It's very niche, but it's also very cute and it complements cottage living very well because cottage core, country living, it just makes a lot of sense at the end of the day. But I wanted to also use the kitchen clutter kit by utilizing the grocery bag, some oven mitt, and also the new sink that we got, the cookie jar, and also the sink side essentials. And this microwave is from the Restoration Workshop kit. And I just think the kitchen looks very lovely overall. It's nice, quaint, and small for one sim only. Then we have their dining room area over here with an array of windows just out in your business. So you get a lot of ample sunlight coming through the windows when you're eating your breakfast, your lunch, and maybe your dinner, give or take a few hours. But as for the upstairs is where the true magic happens, where you sleep and that's it. But I wanted to make sure that the bedroom was nice and quaint and lovely, was not too much sunlight, but depending on like what angle you're placing the bed or like what time of day it is, you kind of get somewhat good enough sunlight, especially in the evening time. You'll get some sunlight here and there by the bed, but I like the bed and I like that I scooted against the wall. We have your nice little dresser. I decided to add in a cat tree because I felt cats would live here. And then of course I added in the candle making station. I don't really use this object a lot because I don't really have my Sims make candles, but I felt for a plant sim, even though flames and plants do not mix, it just felt right. And I feel that they would be more safer and more careful with using wax and flammable things. They're a good person, good handiness skill, good, just good everything. And I kind of want to make a plant sim just for the fun of it, but also just see what I could possibly do while living as a plant sim in The Sims 4. And then over here we have their outdoorsy area. And since they don't really have a technical backyard, I thought having a rooftop garden backyard situation made a lot of sense. So I added in 2 planter boxes, the memorial display area, because I felt they might have a dead plant sim family member or one day a dead fairy that they wanted to remember by. So they have like this display over here just to remember their loved ones. But we also have Patchy, the washer tub, and also the clothing line, because eco-friendly plant sims, they gotta have those things. But then over here is actually my favorite part of the build, which is the greenhouse. This is where you do all of your gardening needs. So you have your vertical gardens, you have your lovely insect farm, which I still think is kind of nasty, but you know, plants, worms, they help things grow. So you gotta have at least something bug related in your house. We also have a flower arranging table. And then over here is kind of where you sit and relax and maybe even meditate. Normally, I would have covered this with like more plants and things, but I felt as since this is technically closed off from this build on this side, it could rain, it could snow, it could do whatever in here and you would have no major effect. But then for the back area is kind of where I went a little bit crazy with a lot of debug things. Like, of course, this truck is completely debugged. We do not have functioning cars in The Sims 4, but imagine if we did. Imagine if your sim had a pickup truck that they just drove, you know, they have their car right here and they just go ahead and drive all the way over here, leading to this road right here. It would make a lot of sense. But they back out into their house, put all their nice little plants, produce things in the back of their pickup truck and do their thing. But I wanted to kind of simulate that idea that they have a pickup truck. They've grown some produce over time, some oversized, some medium sized, and just some regular sized produce that they added to the back of their truck. But then I also added in a rabbit's home. I've also added in the magic plant sim stump. I mentioned this at the beginning of my speed build that Jasmine Holiday was kind of like the introduction to the plant sim challenge. Your sims would need to get these 6 magic like beans, place them in here and grow the tree. But now you can actually get them as a rare seed option. As you're buying your regular seeds, you can also buy rare seeds and you'll get them all there, place them in here and get your tree all grown up. But as we move on, I wanted to add in a dew collector because I don't really use that a lot from Eco Lifestyle. And I felt plant sims, they need a lot of water to grow and thrive. So having a dew collector made a lot of sense. Then I also added in a nectar maker station so that way you can make some lovely nectar, get some money, become rich over time, and maybe even start a family business at the same time in your own home with businesses and hobbies. But then I also added in some more planter boxes and I added in some sprinklers in the middle of them so that way you don't have to water them over time. Because what I realized, when the sprinklers go off, they already water your plants that are nearby, which is very helpful and something that I did not know before up until like 3 years ago. But then the last thing I added was a bee box, so that way the bees can go to the plants and help them grow over time and maybe even help them have better quality. Because what I learned from the bee movie, bees actually have some benefit in helping things grow and be more lively and more happier, at least from the bee movie with pollen. Because pollination, it just makes a lot of sense. So bees are actually your best friends. Barney B. Benson, though, he just loves jazz. But with all that being said, I hope you all enjoyed today's build as much as I did. Please let me know down in the comments below, as always, of what you thought of this build. Especially let me know if you've ever actually done the Plant Sim challenge in The Sims 4, or have you ever played with a Plant Sim in The Sims 2 or 3? I would love to know. But as always, go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you all next time. Bye!